Sorry there, hit the intro again. What up, guys? Welcome to Tech Talkin'. We're going to cover some tackle, some tips, and some techniques tonight. We got an awesome show. We have Bill Schultz from up in Wisconsin. He's going to be sharing a lot of his techniques to catch more smallmouth. I got a chance to meet him last year, and we hit it off because we both love smallmouth. They were one of our favorite fish to chase. I do a lot of river fishing. He gets to chase them not only from the kayak, but also from a boat, and does a lot of lake fishing as well as river fishing. So we were kind of chatting before the show, and he's going to cover a lot of his techniques, his line choices, his bait choices, his rod choices, and a lot of finesse fishing, which is something I don't do a lot of. So if you have questions about that, get them ready. I just want to say before we kind of get started here that I appreciate everyone joining us tonight. I know things are getting weird and crazy with this virus, and I just we hope and pray, and our thoughts are with everyone that's going through whatever it is, whether it's, job stuff that's going on, not being able to go to work, or, sickness. Just stay safe, and we'll get through this thing. We got to stay positive. So we're not going to touch on that too much. We're going to stay positive and think about what we can do when we can get back out there and how to catch those fish. We do have an exciting thing tonight. NRS was gracious enough to donate a dry bag. Let me pull a picture of that up real quick here. Give me just a second, and I'll pull this awesome dry bag. This is the 35 duffel dry bag that they're going to have for us here. This thing is awesome. I actually really enjoy it, and we'll kind of talk about the uses that I have for it a little later on as we're finishing up the show. And we're going to do some trivia to give this bag away. This is the Expedition bag. Again, the 35. I have a 35 and a 75. Love it. And it is my #1 travel bag for sure. So looking forward to giving that away. And without further ado, I guess we'll bring Bill on, and we're going to start talking about how to catch more smallmouth. That's what you guys are here for, right? If anything's going on or you guys are having trouble hearing me, please let me know in the comments. So that I know that everything is going well, or if it's not going well. And if you have questions, I'm going to pull them in. Just want to say hey to Gene real quick. Gene's always on. Gene Wilson's on. Matthew's on. We got Daniel Cruz on. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, get those questions ready. Bill, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good, Jameson. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. I know we got to talk, and we've only really met that one time in person, but I think both of us share that passion for smallmouth for sure. I'm going to share a couple of pictures here of you with some pretty toed smallmouth. And one thing I noticed is the northern smallmouth, when they get in those longer lengths, they are a whole lot fatter than some of the southern river fish that we catch.
Well, they really are. And certainly, one of the areas that I fish a lot is Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. That's up Green Bay, Lake Michigan. And I tell when I'm doing my talks, and I have a large smallie group that I communicate with, and guys will say, "Hey, Bill, I caught a 19.5 incher in Sturgeon Bay." And I'll say, how heavy was it? Well, I just measured it. And my feeling is that you catch a 19 incher, 19.5 in Sturgeon Bay in May or June, you're looking at 5.5 to 6 pounds. Whereas you catch a 19.5 incher on the Wisconsin River, that fish might be 4. And so there's a difference, but river fishing I love it. Wearing my waders, getting some exercise. The older I get, the more exercise I need.
Well, it's my buddy and I were talking about this yesterday, and there's something about just the scenery of a river. It's constantly changing. You start one place, you take out in another. It is a little bit easier, I think, to catch fish because it's less water when you look at it width-wise to break down. They're either here, there, or one or 4 or 5 different types of water in that river. And you were kind of hitting on that too. Where lake fishing to me would just be like starting from scratch. Like I wouldn't even know, what to target. So I think it's going to be interesting to pick your brain a little bit. I'm going to hit a few comments here. I don't know what James has against my mom. Hopefully she's watching and realizes that James is not that nice of a person apparently, because he said I'm ugly and my mother dresses me funny.
That's because I'm on the show and I look so darn
You're
sharp.
making me look bad. That's the problem.
I'm trying to grow a beard but it was nowhere near as good as yours.
That was the requirement to have be on the show. You have to have a beard. So I don't know how we even got you in. I'm just looking at some of these. Hey guys, just again, thanks for joining us. We've got this. Matthew likes to smallmouth fish at the New River in North Carolina. Stay away from that water. That's my water. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's great fishery. And like I was talking, even in the rivers, like in the Susquehanna, I noticed the fish are a whole lot fatter than they are, say, in the New River and stuff. So, just talking about that. But we'll kind of roll right into this. People are already asking secret lures to catch smallies. So let's give them some information.
Well, here's the thing. I told Jameson that I literally have a white 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I got all the stuff around me, and I have 2 Z-Man TRD and the tubes. I've got 2 Kalin's grubs. I got 2 teeny wee crawfish, and I've got 2 Kitech.
So you keep it super simple.
That is about it. But Jameson's much more of a power fisherman. I'm 100% finesse. I'm a little older than he is, and I fished as a kid, fished a little bit through college, and then you get away from it. And in northern Wisconsin back in '91, at a brother-in-law's dad's resort out in a little 12-foot rowboat with a little motor, I got hooked again, so to speak. Got a boat the next sports show season, and kept going from there. The nice thing is that being a guy who kept a log for his swimming through college and kept a log and still does with his racquetball that goes back to 1968. Actually I didn't start keeping a log till 72, but you'd expect I keep a log, so I kept a log, a simple log. And it's, what's fun is it allowed me to note that, my first smallmouth I ever saw or caught was May of 1994. It was the day that I got called by my future boss for my many-year, 2+ decade job at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So very appropriate. But that day on Delavan Lake, I caught 100 undersized little walleyes and about a dozen of these great fish. And they intrigued me. It took me about 2 or 3 years to where that was pretty much all I fished for. And again, I say this totally to where anybody out there can, give me a hard time. But as of November, I was at 23,391 that I've caught and released. So
I know a little bit about smallmouth fish then.
I do. And a lot of my fish, probably of that group, probably 12 or 13,000 have come on little rivers, whether I'm in a kayak or I'm wading. Then my kayak fishing really got started in the late, 2007, 8, 9. My wife and I had a couple of inflatables, and it was 2009 Canoecopia in Madison where I really got involved with the nice boats, and been excited to, be involved with Jackson for, 5-6 years. And, I love the Kraken. There's a fish from 2 years ago on the Milwaukee River late in the season, about a 3-pounder. And so, I do both, river fishing and fishing on the big water. And it's exciting because I don't use anything really different in either location.
Right.
I'm going to show this because it sort of goes back to my smallie roots. But here's the little Rebel teeny wee crawfish, and here's the tip for everybody. They come with little number 14 hooks. And let me tell you from experience, if you hook yourself with the little number 14s, they don't hurt. You just pull them out. And that's why, to be honest with you, there you go. There's a nice smallie with a Rebel teeny wee crawfish. I actually put number 10s on the back. They don't bend and break as much, and they don't actually goof up the wiggle. And I wanted to tell you about this because, my early years of smallmouth fishing, and probably out of my group based on my logs and the number of fish, and I know the people at Rebel like this, but I've caught over 5,000 smallmouth on the Rebel teeny wee crawfish. Wow. It's a great little lure for rivers in particular because it's a shallow diving, kind of swims, nose down. If you get a little hit a log or something, just usually let up on your line and it floats to the surface. The number 10s do help. I have to tell you, they do help with the hookups because, you get a fairly big smallmouth on number 14s. It's a little bit of a challenge, but the Rebel teeny wee crawfish is always on a rod. I typically, whether I'm in a kayak on a river or I'm wading, you'll see me with holding two rods with one or two stuck in my belt. And in the kayak, and Jameson and I talked about this the other day, I'm a keep it simple guy. KISS, keep it simple, Schultz.
Right.
And the pictures you see, you don't usually see me with, and as wonderful as like the Kraken crates are, I don't use them much because, to be honest with you, 4 or 5 packages of a few of these soft plastics, a little container with jigs, something to drink, a towel, my boga grip, and a few other things. That's about all with, external rod holders with 2 rods and the flush mounts with 2 rods. And the one thing I've got to get used to is the net. There's a good example of that picture.
Yeah, you've got hardly anything on the boat, just a few rods. We talked about this earlier, no tackle box in the back. And real quick, I want to hit, there's a couple people asking your tube setups. I know we're going to get into that. And we got Vincent asking that question. Christopher's asking, what's your rod and reel setup? And I think we're going to get into that too. So guys, hold tight. We will answer these questions for sure.
Well, these are good questions. And what might be good is, let me just tell you from a finesse standpoint, and obviously I've got my Jackson shirt on. I'm wearing a St. Croix hat. I've been involved with St. Croix rod since 1998. And I blame them for all the articles I've written and all the sports shows I've spoken at, because when I got asked to be on their pro staff, it was like, why? And I said, I better do something to make this thing work out. And actually, it's been a wonderful now 23-year involvement with them. So, I'm using St. Croix rods. The one thing I want to tell all of you is certainly, and you can't see them totally, but I'm going to hold up here. Here you've got a wonderful Legend X, over $400 retail. This is a 6'10" medium extra fast. But then you've got a Mojo, $140. This is a 6'10" medium light extra fast. My point being is that if you look at a picture I've got that I use in my talks, the front seat of my Jeep, you see 3 Mojos, 3 Legend X, 5 of them are rigged with the Ned rig and 1 is rigged with the Kalins. Point is that there are a lot of wonderful products at all ends of the spectrum. With St. Croix, guys, the Mojos are wonderful, as are all their rods. The other thing is, I don't like to use, and I've got 3 reels I want to show you. My whole goal is to help you cut through all the BS and get to things that work, and also to save you money. Because if you're not buying a lot of extra stuff, you're going to save money. So I fish a variety of reels each year. Some of my favorites in that upper like 80, 90 to like 100, 105 are the Pfluger Supreme. This is the 30 size. The Daiwa Fuego, it's like $100. This is their 2500. That kind of give you an idea of the size. And here's the President XT Pfluger that just went up to $84.99 this year. All are in that size of about a 2500 size reel. Yeah. I love a few lines. My personal favorite, because years ago, it was very nice. They sent me some Daiwa Samurai, twice as expensive as any braid out there. Well, 2 years ago, they came out with their J Braid 8. I can't tell the difference. And it's a little cheaper than some of the others. I use this. I use the Fireline Ultra 8, and I do use Nanofill. All great lines. I'm a fluorocarbon leader nut. I don't fish anywhere without a fluorocarbon leader, and it goes back to the clear water up in Door County, Wisconsin, Sturgeon Bay.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's something I do even in saltwater too. Just gives you that abrasion resistance. And when you're fishing something slow and putting it in front of a fish, obviously that extra little advantage of them not being able to see it, I think really helps.
Well, I used to talk about a 20 to 30 inch leader, and I was using 8 pound. Well, to be honest with you, I'm using a net more in my boat, a little bit in the kayak. But when you got a 5 pound bass on, even though I think I'm pretty good at judging when they're going to move, I still remember on a day before a big thunderstorm up there, losing a 5+ pounder because he went one way and I went the other. So I upped my fluoro to 10 pound. And on the other lines, just an FYI, I'm using, those are all an 8 and 10 pound test, meaning 2 to 3 pound equivalent diameter to mono, and they tie just great to that 10 pound line. And what it does is all three of those with these reels, with they all have larger spools. I'm a nut about keeping them spooled exactly correct. And I also am a big fan of using some cheap mono for backing. So on a 300+ yard spool, you might be able to spool 3 reels with it. So, just some of the little tips. And if you want to know my, slightly more expensive favorites, I have loved the Pfluger Supreme XT forever. That's up to like 170 now. And I have to tell you, maybe my favorite right now, because I always loved the 2000 size Daiwa, the Tatula 2000 is pretty darn nice. So there's just some equipment things that go with my finesse fishing.
So real quick, I'm going to recap this for some people that maybe just joining. Dave Fowler here says, good finesse fishing line recommendations. You can check this back out again, but to recap, you're using, a good braid that you have confidence in, an 8 to 10 pound test. And then you're always topping that with 8 to 10 pound fluorocarbon leader. And you said you're going 20 inches or so, a little more maybe?
No, actually, that's what I used to say 20 to 30, but because I'm lazy and I don't want to retie much, even though I got in my boat, I've got 7, 8 rods, in the kayak always 3 or 4.
Right.
I'm starting to go with, 40 to 50 inches sometime, because these St. Croix rods, the guides are all small, but they're all big enough that uni to uni knot. I use the uni to uni knot.
That was going to be my next question, because I know a lot of people wonder and ask that question of what knot to use to join those two. And that's the knot that I actually use as well, because like I said, everything I do, saltwater, inshore, bass, it doesn't matter. I'm always putting that leader on. So same thing, uni to uni.
Yeah, it used to be that Power Pro had a little bit of an instruction in their line. And now, obviously, whether I'm out in 40-degree weather with 20-mile-an-hour winds in Sturgeon Bay, or freezing my butt off in the kayak on a river, as I did this fall a little bit, I can tie that. And I was going to say, and again, I'm trying to give you good tips. I love nanofill. It may cast better than anything. A little bit of a negative, and I only have run into this with the Ned rig that I've been using a lot the last 3 years. Sometimes when you set the hook, the nanofill can break at that knot. Not often, but every once in a while. But it's a great line. If I had to pick one, I'd be using the J braid all the time. And as we get older, personally, I like the chartreuse, the white, the high vis yellow. It helps me.
That's what I was going to say next. I don't feel like it's, I think my mindset in the beginning was I'm going to use a green line. It's less visible, or a black line, dark colored line. But when you're putting that fluorocarbon tippet on, it doesn't really matter anymore what color braid you have, because you've got that distance between the braid and the lure. And for me, being a non-finesse fisherman, it's even less important, I feel, even though I still do it because I do finesse fish some, and we're going to get into the baits here in a second. But
I think I think the other thing with the fluoro, and or with the the leader, if somebody, if I'm using a little, if I'm using the little Shrooms jig with a tubes, and this is like worth about 30 cents, and I, would break off, no big deal. But if you tie directly to your to your braid, and you're using something that's $6, $7, $8, $10, now you're gonna have a real problem, because you might have a problem. I'm using such inexpensive stuff, not cheap, inexpensive, that if I would be on a river and I just break the jig off, I don't care. I don't want to, but I don't care as much. So another positive to putting the fluorocarbon leader on, I think.
Right. No, for sure. I mean, you're definitely going to lose less baits that way. And so getting, covering that rod setup again. So you're pretty much across the board using that, like you said, extra fast, medium, extra fast, or medium light, extra fast.
Right. And I will tell you, if you would have talked with me after 2018, I would have proclaimed the best, for example, Ned rig rod being a St. Croix 6'10", medium light, extra fast, Mojo, any one of the other series or within that range. But, and I have 4 cats. So my buddy Jack is up here. So if he pokes his head in, he knows a lot about this stuff though. Because he's traveled with me for 5 years almost every time I've gone to Door County. But anyways, I think that the one thing that I found in 2018, when I started being up there a lot, I told my wife, I said, Becky, I've got to learn how to catch these smallmouth in deeper than, 2 to 6 feet of water. Mm-hmm. I was pretty damn good in 2 to 6 feet of water in the spring. I mean, the spring of May and June of 2014, I can tell you that I caught 714 smallmouth in Sturgeon Bay, not 713. All 714 came on the 4-inch smoked salt and pepper right there, smoked salt and pepper Kalen's Lunker grub. But now I'm up there trying to fish in July, August, September. So I needed to learn how to do that. And I'm just going to say that, and we'll talk about this later related to lures, but from a rod standpoint, August 12th of 2018, and when you do logs, you do remember days better. I lost 4 or 5 fish in that 5 to 6 pound range. That never, ever happens. And so the question was why? Well, if I'm out there with a Ned rig with a 1/15 ounce Shrooms jig with a little wire hook, my deduction was with a medium light, with that big fish, I was not getting a good enough hook set to where either this was getting bent because it wasn't in all the way or they were spinning it. So last year, didn't catch as many big fish last year. I went to the medium extra fast and I lost no fish, and I noticed no difference on casting. I noticed no difference on anything. So up there in the big water, just going to that medium. Now I could still fish forever with a medium light, but the medium seemed to be a better rod when you've got the potential for 4 to 7 pound fish.
Right.
Yeah. So
and that makes a lot of sense because even me throwing a lot of bigger baits, I throw a chatterbait 1/2 ounce, spinnerbait 1/2 ounce. Those heavier baits, I've noticed I need the backbone to get the hook penetration, but I also, instead of extra fast like you, I need a more moderate action so that when that fish is shaking, it can't shake that heavier weight. And I really noticed it with my chatterbait. A couple of years ago, I was fishing a fast rod with a chatterbait, and I just kept hooking fish, and they were slamming it. The fight was great, but they would head shake, and you would end up throwing that hook. And so I played around and actually put it on a crankbait rod that I had, and that kind of went away. And so it is important to partner the rod, I think, with the lure and technique that you're doing. So that's good to know that, being able to get a little bit more backbone, you're able to get that hook set and
get the other things we're going to, and that's the Ned rig. That's a lure and a presentation that you are fishing on the bottom, and you do need the hook set. I talked about, the Kalen's, for so many years, literally 2007 until the middle of 2016, that's pretty much all I used. And it's still great. But the problem in there, you're swimming along slow and steady, bang it, the fish hits it, it sets the hook. And even with the Kitech fat swing, which I'm going to talk about, same difference. Boom, it hits the lure, the hook is set. Ned rig, a little different. You've got a little backbone with it.
Yeah, no, I used to fish a Cinco a little bit, quite a bit actually. before I kind of got into the power fishing stuff as much. And I think with the Ned rig, it's a very similar bite. Sometimes you're not even feeling it. You're just seeing your line stop moving a certain way or go a way that it, in the river, especially, you're watching that thing float down, and then all of a sudden it stops and it starts to go the other way. And it's like I always say, when in doubt, set the hook, because it may be a rock or whatever, but it also may be a fish that's just grabbing that thing and just kind of putting it in its mouth really easy. And
boy, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'll tell you, okay, Sturgeon Bay is, nationally known. I'll be honest with you guys. It hit its peak in 2014 when Bassmasters named it number 1. The next year they named it number 2. And most of us that know what's going on would disagree with those rankings. But I might be out not getting any smallmouth and going in my mind, I'm going, am I just not feeling them with the Ned rig? And the answer is, I'm feeling 4-inch gobies. So if I'm a smallmouth, I'm going to feel. And that's where you said on a river, if it feels, you just better set the hook.
Right.
And that's the same thing. When I'm up there, I'm not feeling smallmouth. If I can catch 4 and 5-inch gobies on a Ned rig and I'm feeling the tap, 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 you get to where you immediately know it's a goby. So you leave it alone. But yeah, you might as well not take a chance if you're not sure.
Just do it. So let's get into the baits.
Okay.
I'll let you kind of lead it. I've got some pictures here that I can pull up as you talk through them.
Well, I already talked about the teeny wee crawfish, and to be honest with you, for me, it's now strictly a river presentation. I will tell you, years ago, when there used to be big schools of smallmouth in Sturgeon Bay, and there weren't as many big fish back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I would fish this sometimes, but let me just jump. I'll just jump right into the Kalin's Lunker Grub. Again, and sorry about that, guys, but I do, stories go along with things. But last day up there in June of 2007, my brother and I are out, and there's another St. Croix pro staffer. And by the way, just right now, I have 3 cats on my desk with me. And if any of them grab one of the lures, I don't have my pliers. So no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, we asked him, how are you doing? He was doing better than us. And he said, I'm using the Kalin's Lunker Grub. I'd heard about it and had used other types of grubs with not a lot of success. He reached in and gave us a double handful. My brother saying, can we buy? No problem. Well, we had immediately good luck. The next day, I had more luck. And that was 2007. And I can tell you, 2007 for me was not a great year in Door County. It was a phenomenal year on the Milwaukee River. I did, plus a few rivers in southwest Wisconsin. Whoops.
You're good.
Okay, I'm not, here, hang on. I'm wondering why okay, there we go.
He's back.
Anyways, I will tell you that 2007 was my biggest smallmouth year. I did 2,100 smallmouth that year with 1,900 on rivers. And so that fall, I gave the Kalin's Lunker Grub in the Blue Pearl Salt and Pepper. This is the 4-inch version. I like it a little better than the 5. Still have the bigger body, still have the great wispy tail. It was great on the rivers. There's the Blue Pearl Salt and Pepper. That's about all I use on rivers. And there's the smoked salt and pepper. That's all I use in Door County. And the other zillion colors, I say give them a try. But pretty much, I'm swimming these in shallow water, rivers or up in Door County on lighter, 1/16 ounce, longer shank hooks. So they go right through the body. So also that's a 1/16. And I'm going to show you the other size I've used a ton has been the 3/32. I've used them in black and unpainted. That's it. Going back 12 or 13 years. There you go. 3/32 below, the 1/16 is above. And I will tell you that, it's important to thread it right down the center following the little seam. They were designed by Mr. Kalins. Uncle Josh out of Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, now Acme Tackle, bought Kalins, but they were designed to swim tail down. But to be honest with you, it makes no difference. Tail down or tail up. If you're buying them and they start slipping off the jig, bite off a little bit, a very little bit, and turn them around. But those are just two great presentations. And here's the deal. Here's how you fish them. You make your long cast. You let them just go down a little bit if it's a river not very far, in the lake a little bit, and you swim them slow and steady. No jigging, no bouncing off the bottom, slow and steady. If you tick a rock, speed it up just a little bit. Most people swim them too fast, and I'm more of an 8 personality, so hang on a second. Larry, get off the desk. I have Larry up here, Jack, and Sammy. So those are my 3 male cats. They're
There's
nice
a video
cats.
actually of you, I think, of it swimming that you sent me. I'm going to pull this up so you can see it here.
Yeah, and actually what that is, all I did was hold it in a slow current. And that gives you an idea of how great that tail goes. Mm-hmm. Any faster, and actually the tail straightens out and it doesn't vibrate as much. And here's a story that I still find hard to believe. I've been you look at, being at shows and having the famous people speaking. And I've spoken, before Hank Parker, after Jimmy Houston, Mark Zona, Roland Martin. And the one guy who was amazing was Al Lindner. And all the other guys have rods, reels, sometimes PowerPoints. I always have PowerPoints. But Al Lindner had a chair. So he put one knee up on the chair and then he changed to the other knee. But, Al Lindner was talking about in high water, dirty water on rivers. And I think most of you would know this, the fish are going to get behind cover. Well, I drove up to the Milwaukee River a few years ago. I didn't think the river was going to be high. I drove 25 miles, and there I am at my place. It's high, it's dirty, maybe 6-7 inches of visibility. And I'm going, darn. No, I didn't say darn. But anyways, I thought, okay, let's give this a shot. Instead of going home behind some trees, behind some rocks, along the shore, I was swimming the Kalins 4-inch blue pearl, salt and pepper, 3 hours, 35 smallmouth. I'm going, there's no noise with this. So obviously the fish are much more sensitive than maybe we know. They were either their sight in that water was better, or they were feeling, or this little no vibration. All I know is that it is true that when the water's high, muddy, you can still find fish hiding out of current behind things. So, my experience with the Kalins in rivers and in up in Door County is I've mostly fished it shallow. In rivers, it's going to in the 1/16th in a shallow river. That's what I use, so I'm not getting hung up all the time. Up in Door County, if I'm in 2 to 4 feet, I might use the 1/16th. A little deeper, I might use the 3/32. So that sort of is my Kalin story. It's a great presentation. And just an FYI, I'm just trying to save you money. And I don't know, Jameson, if anybody would want to email me at smalleycentral@gmail.com, we've got a nice 25% discount off of Kalins that I put out to my group. And even on the Kitech, when I talk about that, there's one for that too. And I'd love to save you some money on these things. So there's my Kalin story.
Nice.
If you want, we can move on to the Ned rig, which is.
Let's do. I could pull up this photo here so that for those of you who don't know, and I don't know how you don't know about the Ned rig, basically, I'm going to switch over. It is a small profile. And, for me, this was introduced to me through Z-Man. And I know that there are some others out there and whatnot, but I looked at it like, why would anything eat this little tiny Finesse TRD and in a bait like that. Now I fish Cincos a lot, and people ask the same question. Why would they eat that? But they just can't stand it. I mean, you put it in front of them, and we have big fish eat it, small fish eat it. They all eat it. So it's not just a small fish lure. Obviously, I mean, you've caught some nice fish on it. But I'm going to let you touch on the differences between the tube and the Ned rig and how you do your setup.
Well, I'll just tell you that I mentioned to you guys. I said we get a place in Door County, and I'm complaining to my wife. I said fishing, in 2015, and literally 5 years to the day, March 31st of 2015 is when we closed on it. And, I said, I got to figure out how to catch these fish in deeper water, 10 to 20 plus feet of water. And one of the guys that might be on the listening right now is Frank Briggs. Frank's a really good friend of mine. He's on our Jackson team, fabulous river guy. And I used to do an event in Door County. And I think everyone who wanted to come came to it, but it was called Smalley Weekend in Door County. And Frank was in the boat with me, and he had all these Z-Man things. This is in early June of 2016. We hit some docks and stuff, just not the right place to be fishing. I didn't touch it again. And on August 1st of 2016, I passed up a chance to go kayak fishing on the Oconto River, lazy, and I went out a mile offshore to an island called Hat Island off of Egg Harbor in Green Bay. And I stayed there in an area about the size of a gymnasium with my spot lock on my Minn Kota for 7 hours in 8 to 20 feet of water, fishing this in green pumpkin goby, and caught 62 smallmouth. And I'm going, hey, this is pretty cool. Well, I'm not from Missouri, but anyways, in later August, I'm on a little river in southwest Wisconsin. 4 hours of fishing. First 15 fish on the little Booyah buzzbait. Great little fun lure. Well, that's after an hour. The next 3 hours, 66 smallmouth later, using the tubes, I'm at over 80 smallmouth, and it's getting down into, even though the deeper area might only be 3 or 4 feet, it's getting down deeper. So I'm catching, for that little river, bigger fish. So now I'm going, wow, this is pretty darn good. Well, one more time. September 2nd, all within a month, I go off of Hat Island again, a little different wind direction, same 8 to 20 feet of water, using the 1/15, not the chartreuse, we'll talk about that, but black or the dark green. Hey, 5 hours, 52 smallmouth. I'm thinking, I'm sold. This baby is phenomenal. And I can tell you that from August 1st of 2016 to right now, I've added in about another 4,000 smallmouth to that total. And all but about 200 have come on the TRD or the tubes. And I'm stretching this baby, that Elastec.
Yeah. And
I got to tell you, I'm a disciple, and I'll blame this on Frank if you're on on right now.
He was earlier. He was saying, hey,
Frank might be on, but I just joked with him today. I said to him, he was put up a post about, life when we're ready, when life's ready to take us, or when we're going to go. And I joked with him coming back from Door County today. I said, Frank, when you get to the pearly gates, St. Peter's going to say, Frank, you're in, because you were a hell of a nice guy. You always let Bill catch at least one more smallmouth when you fish together. So Frank, thank you, buddy. But anyways, we're on a little river in 2017. He's catching a few more fish than me using an orange jig head. And he was nice enough to give me some. So I caught up and maybe caught a couple more than him. Sorry, Frank. But so I got thinking, if this little extra attractant of color might help in the clear waters of Sturgeon Bay and Door County, where chartreuse has always been a great color, hey, why not get some of the little chartreuse shrooms? Well, let me tell you, that fall of 2017, I didn't do it scientifically, but I will guarantee you that the chartreuse outfished the black and the dark green. So I literally have not turned back. I'm using chartreuse in all of my Ned rig fishing. Not that black, dark green, the white, their red isn't going to work. I just think that little extra pizzazz of the chartreuse might help a little bit better. And the other thing is, going back to that picture with these guys floating, if you have thought of the Ned rig, the reason why the Z-Man product is so good, and I don't know if anyone else has one like it, but this little guy stands up like a little weenie off the bottom. So if I'm on the big water and this baby's sitting out there and even the wind is blowing and the current, it's going to make those tentacles, it's going to make the TRD so enticing. Now you go to a river with the buoyancy, and yeah, you're going to still lose these guys in the rocks, but because it's buoyant, you're going to lose a lot less of these than if you're fishing a normal soft plastic that lays on the bottom. Mm-hmm. And you take Sturgeon Bay, Green Bay, and for example, starting about 8, 9, 10 years ago, every rock all year round has about an inch of like a gold-colored scum. Well, a tube is phenomenal, laying on the bottom, but it gets scum every time you bring it back. I almost never get any scum using the light jig because it's when you twitch with this, that's the best presentation. Twitch, let it sit. Your twitches are more than just twitching a little bit. They're moving it more than you think. So these guys are kind of, buoyant off the bottom. I just think, it's a killer.
Yeah, and sometimes you can even I know that when I've used it and you're in the zone where the fish should be, you just almost just drag it slow, and then because it's going to lay down, like you said, and then it's going to kind of float back up. So It's kind of got that natural action of, you can pop it and hop it. I call it this way, where you jerk it and it kind of does this, or you can just drag it and it'll fall. And then as it settles, it'll slowly just stand back up on its own. And once it's in their face like that, they're going to nip at it.
Well, Jameson, what you're doing, they've got their diagram with 4 presentations for this that Z-Man has. And between you and me, we've hit 3 of them. Let me tell you the 4th, and we're going to have a little fun with this.
This is probably going to be Chris Funk's way of fishing this bait. I have a feeling.
Well, let me tell you that all of us in our lifetime have said, you know what? You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. Or, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that out. Well, let me tell you, I spent over 20 years running the Alumni Association at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So I know a lot of doctors. And after I retired, a guy named Paul Dernbach, a brain surgeon, went fishing in our kayaks with me. And I introduced him to the Ned rig. So he's got a self-propelled kayak and he emails me and he goes, Bill, I'm just moving along and I just let this baby, just like the Kalins, just swim along and I'm catching smallmouth.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, hey, I got a brain surgeon telling me that the one presentation that I questioned works. So I tried it. And you know what? Just swimming this thing can still catch fish. So you don't want to argue with a brain surgeon. And
yeah.
So,
and Chris Funk is probably borderline smart enough to be a brain surgeon. But when we were down in the swamp, we were seeing a lot of small pickerel that were just baby pickerel. And of course, both of us are looking through the box, but he kind of figured it out first. He started throwing the Ned rig. I think he was even putting it on a weightless hook, the smallest hook he had there, and just swimming it like you said, and he was getting hammered. And so it's definitely an interesting thing because you think there's no action. Why would anything even want it? But they do.
I'll tell you where the concern comes. And someone asked me at one of my talks recently at the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Sports Show, they said, Bill, isn't this known as a fish killer because they swallow it? And I said, I'll just give you an honest answer. I mean, if I've caught, close to 4,000 smallmouth on this alone and never lost a fish. Now, that's like a lot of us, we're pretty quick on the draw. We feel something, boom. So it's in the mouth area.
Right.
But I will tell you, what you have to be careful of is don't just throw this out and then go do something else. Because I've had the case where the phone rings, this is out, I turn around for a split second. So all this is doing is sitting with no movement.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a $500 worth of rod and reel going out the back of the boat and luckily grabbing it. And there have been a couple times where I've something's happened where it's out there and my mind says, God, I hope I don't have a fish on because it might have swallowed it. I feel that, boom, I set the hook. Thankfully, I've not had any problems, but just know that even sometimes just leaving this, you try to stay away from doing anything, you might be amazed.
Yeah. And so kind of circling back with these finesse baits, I think one thing to speak back to the line and even your rod, a good sensitive rod, but using braid when you're finesse fishing to me is a big deal because you're going to get more of that feel transferred from the bait to the rod tip and ultimately into your hand. So you're going to know that fish is picking that bait up, is even smelling that bait, and you're going to feel a whole lot more when you use that braid. So I think that's another reason. Plus, if you're fishing that deep water too, I'm sure not having the stretch that you would get to get that hook set is probably important. But
it
braid's
really
going to increase your sensitivity for sure.
It really is. And you know what I want to say is, all of you that are probably listening are really good fishermen. But and my wife is a good fisherman person. But she loves the little river. She loves to wade and walk, as she says. But, we've been out a couple of times. She doesn't go out with me very much. And I hate to say thankfully she's 5'2", so a 3-pounder looks like a 4-pounder. But I've not got her into a 4 or 5-pounder. But I will tell you that she's used the Ned rig a couple of 3 times. It's really easy to fish. The key thing really, and here's the challenge, a little bit of a challenge with the kayak. And I've been literally on an area up in Sturgeon Bay called the Flats. 5 miles, it's when you're going out of Sturgeon Bay into Green Bay. And I've been out there in 3-4 footers with the Kraken. And what I do, one of 2 things, and the Kraken holds so well, like a lot of our kayaks, in the wind, that I either face it into the wind or with the wind behind me. But facing into the wind, I can fish the Ned rig off the bottom and still be pretty good with it. Mm-hmm. With the boat, people don't believe that they go, Bill, you're in 3 and 4 footers to where your prop is coming out of your trolling motor and you're fishing a 1/15th. Well, the way I can do it is the spot lock. I'm in a 4 footers. The spot lock locks me. The boat swings around. My windshield blocks me, and I'm fishing off the back platform, so I can fish easily with these light jigs. So the key thing is you cannot fish this working a shoreline where you're not. It's tough because you get the bow in your line, and if you, especially with the light jigs, if you go really heavy where you're going to lose a little bit of the movement, then maybe. But I have to tell you that I have literally not fished this at all with, like wind blowing on a lake. A river's a little different because I tend to like to cast upriver a little bit, let it bounce along that opposite shoreline with the rocks. It's sort of like a slice of pie. Once it gets past straight across from me, I bring it back in. That's a little different because I can keep the line taut. Yeah. I don't want to, with our time or anything, I don't want to miss, kind of like my new exciting lure that I'm going to tell you about because, again, what I just told you about, I could live with for the rest of my life. You're not talking very many lures for catching all those fish. Right. But the new one that I've been hearing about for a couple of years, and you guys have all heard about it, are the Kitech products. And so I tried them, but not giving them their time because these others are all working. Well, late summer and into the fall, I gave them their time. So I'm out where the fish are not in the fall coming as shallow as I thought. So I've got, and we'll just use I've been using them all fall, but the Kitech fat swing in the 3.3 This is a partly used box of the Gobi color, and the 3.8. This is the shad. I like the ones that have a dark color on top and a brighter color on the bottom. But all I can tell you is that I'm up on the big water the last half of October. I'm opening this package of Shrooms Pro Jigs. Let me ask you if you think I've ever caught a smallmouth deeper than maybe 18 or 19 feet. And the answer is no. But they're there. So what do? I got to get these suckers down, and obviously my small jigs aren't going to do it. So I, on October 17th, I bought a couple packages of 1/4 ounce VMC mushroom head jigs from Howie's Tackle in Sturgeon Bay. They've got all the products I'm talking about. And doggone it, in 20 to 25 feet of water, swimming it just like the Kalins, super slow. I'm getting hammered. Well, I got back to my place. That was a Thursday, I think. And my little package from Z-Man is there. So now I've got my 1/3 ounce shrooms. And so what I did, these got down even faster. And I have to tell you that I don't know my numbers up like I do in my talk, but I fished like 8 days between the middle of October and about the 28th. And I fished about 29 or 30 hours. And I did like 130 or 40 smallmouth with a lot of nice fish. And I was so damned excited because I'm swimming this thing in 20 to 32 feet of water right off the bottom with the fat swing. And it's like, wow, this is unbelievable. In fact, my last day on the water in Door County this year, I'm way north, and it's about 4 p.m, later than I many times stay out. And the clouds were broken. It was like a vision from God. The sun was coming through the clouds and shining on a really good set of islands called the Sister Islands. And I thought, I think I'm being told I should go there. Well, you know what? I didn't go there. I turned around, drove the boat another couple hundred yards back up and hit the stretch I hit. And I caught another 15 smallmouth. So I made the right choice staying where I was. Yeah. But I've been real impressed, just to all of you, with, everything I've told you are things that have worked great for me and still do. But I've been so impressed with the Kitech fat swing. The negative, if you catch more than 2 fish on it, you're a hero, because they tear apart unbelievably. My record is 5. That's biting ends off, turning it around, and everything else. Typically 1 or 2 max. And but you know what? When you're catching a lot of fish on them, it doesn't matter. Again, unlike the Kalins are not as expensive. They hold up many times better. Package like this, I think retails for $6.99. Nice thing is I got a 20% discount code that I can give you.
Yeah, someone was asking about that code earlier for the other baits as well. So here at the end, maybe in the comments, I'll put a link or something if you got it, or you can just share how people can get.
Well, this is easy. I'll give you the Kitech one right now. This is You don't even have to write this down for you older guys. It's my last name, Schultz, capital S, then Chultz. That's the Kitech one.
And he was asking about, I'm going to scroll back and just make sure that I'm not missing any of these comments. Also, one of the ones I saw here, Jim is actually saying, what knot do you use? And we were talking about that. The uni is what both you and I use to join braid to fluorocarbon. It works. It's easy to tie. And
by the way, Jim Drayson is a good friend of mine. We were on the phone today, and I only hate him because he got to go to Mexico for a month during the coldest part of the winter. So anyways,
yeah, rub it in. Yeah. What was the discount code for the Kalins?
The Kalins, and I think it's Bills, lower B Bills, BILLS 2520. Bills 2520, and that's lowercase on Bill. and I think it's Bills, like Bills, but I can get that to you, or they can, again, you guys, if any of you would like to be on my email group, I mean, I give a lot of good information. It's smalleycentral@gmail.com. I'm happy to add you. You don't have to be from Wisconsin. I have a friend who is a vice president at Regis University in Denver, who's an outstanding Smalley guy. He signs up for my Smalley Night Out event only so he can be in the drawing because there's so much great stuff that goes. But
I'm going to add that into the comments here. Contact Bill and it's SMALLIECENTRAL@gmail.com.
Yep, and I'm good at getting back to people, as some of the group knows.
So I'll post that up in the comments, and
yeah,
we are kind of running out of time, and I do have some cool stuff to give away. But is there any more questions, real quick?
Can I just mention a couple other things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All I want to mention is, and if anyone wants this article, I'm happy to send it. I have a current feature in Badger Sportsman magazine on how to know when to go. And it's me talking, but then an interview with the guru, Rick Taylor, who does Bassmasters, and he only shows a little bit in Bassmasters. But I got to tell you, another thing that's helped me catch a lot more fish over the last many years. I literally last year was 70, 75 days on the water. I was not on the water more than 5 or 6 days where the rating was not at low end of good or better. So that, if anyone wants a copy of that article, I'll send it to you. I've got to tell you, this is my medical warning. I've always tried to stay out of the sun, but I have pictures of myself early on where I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, wading and stuff like that. Hey, I look like I don't want to joke about this, but I look like I'm covered to be protected from the virus because I do wear long sleeve everything, the buffs. And I want to tell you that one of the things that I do love, if you look at my hands in this picture, you see the Glacier Glove, their stripping and fighting glove. It's got a little bit of material on the palm. I love it because this is my kayak glove. It not only protects my hands, and if you pay attention, your hands get hammered on a hot day. Sure. And in the kayak, I'm wearing the stripping fighting fly fishing gloves. And when I'm in my boat, I literally almost feel naked grabbing a fish without wearing my sun gloves. And that's just me. I've had plenty of sun. Now, pretty much with the buffs and everything else, this is about all you see. And I have sunscreen on that. So
everyone thinks you're freezing to death that doesn't know what it's like to be out in the sun fishing.
Well, the thing is, as I get older, I've often said that I look a lot better with sunglasses and a baseball cap. And I guess when I'm totally
Why do you think I grow this giant beard to cover up what the ugly that's underneath?
Well, so, there it is, everybody. I'd like, happy to be a resource for you. The big thing is cutting through you wasting money on getting the wrong products. And I think kind of what I've done tonight, you can see that I have to tell you, I'm involved with Yarcraft and Mercury, so I'm out in a boat often, but I used to be involved with Crestliner, and I had a 2017 that I picked up in April of 2017, had a place for 6 Plano boxes. So I put 6 Plano boxes in with all the treble crankbaits and everything else. I touched them again in the middle of November when the boat got turned back in because I never used any of them. Yeah. And from a kayaking standpoint, if I'm out there with a Kilroy or the Kraken or a Cuda LT or a Kusa FD, I don't want to have a lot of stuff. I want in front of me open for my rods and casting, so I can carry all of this stuff literally. I mean, honestly, in a Walmart bag, and it makes it really easy to go out and not have to worry about grabbing stuff or anything else. And this is just me. It's I like to find out what works, and then I tend to stick with it.
Yeah, and sure. You find those confident baits and it works better. And a lot of times I'm the same way. I'll take this box of stuff and then I'll throw the same lure all day, or or the same 2 or 3 lures all day. So find what works and stick with it. A lot of guys are thanking you. Very knowledgeable and informative for sure. Some people, kind of stumbled across. We got Brian here, Brian Rudolph, that stumbled across us. So thanks for watching. I saw a question from Jean. We'll try to answer that real quick. She's
Hi, Jean.
If we've ever tried.
Someday, Jean, I want to go catch a monster largemouth with you.
She may share her spots with you. It may happen.
Yeah, I asked Jean, what's your best spot? And she said, in the water. In the
water, yeah. That's where she catches them. Well, she's got a video she put out. You guys haven't seen that. It's on the Jackson Kayak Facebook page.
So what's Jean's question?
So she's asking if you've ever tried to extend the life of the baits with Mend It, which I'm thinking is, I think it's kind of similar. I do carry super glue with me sometimes. If you put too much, it can eat through some of the plastics. I've seen that happen with the Z-Man, but it does help that bait stay in place. Have you ever tried anything like that?
I have not, but the one that I would want to maybe try it with is the Kitech.
Yeah.
Whether I get a discount or not, they're wonderful, but they're not inexpensive. I've not used the super glue to glue them to the jig head, mainly because there's so many times, even with the TRD, well, that thing comes back on a fish and it's all wound around. And if I had it super glued, I have to tell you, I had one of my guys say, Bill, I just can't get those off that little keeper. Look at, there it is. I took it off that easy.
It is a technique for sure.
But you know what? I think finding something like that might not be a bad suggestion. And remember, for any of you new people to Z-Man, keep the Z-Man separate from everything else. Keep them in their package, because if you put a whole bunch of these with some Kalins, everything's ruined. They melt the other plastics.
Yeah, and they actually recommend that. It helps the plastics keep their form better if you keep them in the packaging. So they've actually got some binders there as well. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm going to now announce, and I'll do this with you on here. I'm going to say that you and I can't win this, even though I got it wrong today earlier when I was asking to make sure I had the right question. We're going to be giving away, let me pull up the picture again, for those of you that joined late. So stay with us here. NRS has donated, and this is like a $180 dry bag.
Wow, thank you.
It's a zipper bag. We're going to be handing this out to whoever can get this question right. It's a super awesome bag. I use these. I've got the 75 liter. We're giving away the 35. You got a couple of color options here. I travel with them. I fly with them. They're waterproof. I trust my camera equipment in them when I'm on the water. So here's the question. What was the first product NRS ever came out with? Bill, you and I can't answer. First product NRS ever launched. First person to get that right in the comments is going to win that dry bag. And you can pick your color choice, and all you have to do is contact them with the name and the number there, and we'll get that bag out to you. So anybody got an answer for that? All right, I'm going to let that roll for a second. Let the comments build. Right now, we don't have anybody responding yet, but hopefully somebody will get that right. Bill, again, thank you. I'm going to pull you down and just kind of say my goodbyes, and hopefully we'll be announcing a winner. And again, in the comments here, you guys can reach Bill. I posted his contact at smalleycentral@gmail.com. He can hook you up with the discount codes for some of the gear that he talked about during the show, or if you missed something or want to dive into something else. Your wealth of knowledge. You've got thousands and thousands of tens of thousands of smallmouth under your belt. I have no idea how many I caught, but I do know this. It's not that many. So,
all I got to say is the older I get, it's better for my mind as I try to keep track of the fish. So I'm using it as a, to try to ward off any of those mental problems that you get sometimes when you get older. So I think keeping track hopefully will keep me sharp.
All right. Sounds good.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're
and thanks everybody for, joining in. I look forward to hearing from some of you.
Awesome. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon, Bill.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, guys, that was a great show. I'm seeing some comments. This is getting interesting. Paul, you actually said the same thing that I said, which is straps. That is incorrect. Let's see. We've got raft. That's also incorrect. I'm going to give you guys a hint. We've got PFD. We've got NRS straps. Again, that's what I thought. So any more guesses? I'm going to give you a hint. The clue has already been kind of shared on the show. Bill's dry bag. We got a winner. Nice. I don't know if you're Googling this or if you just came up with it, but awesome. You now get your choice between the blue or the gray color there in the Expedition dry duffel, which is a full zip duffel 35. So after this, if you would, I'm going to hit you up. And if you can actually just send me a message on Facebook. You can reach out to Bill or I on Facebook for that matter. But Brian, if you would just reach out to me on Facebook through Messenger and get me your contact info, and we'll get that bag out to you. So hopefully we'll continue to get some cool prizes to give away for those of you that are willing to sit through an hour of me and whoever my guest is talking. Again, thanks a lot, Bill. We're going to have a new guest next week. I'll be announcing that pretty soon. I've got a few people that I want to talk to and check their schedule and see if we can make it happen, but it's going to be interesting. I promise you that. We definitely have Jim Salmons coming up to talk offshore fishing and his setups, and that very well may be next Tuesday's guest. We also have some guys lined up to talk. We got guys lined up to talk about muskie fishing and pike fishing, so there's toothy critters. We're going to talk some more kayak fishing, rigging, as far as, rigging the boat. If there's anything that you would like to see specifically when it comes to these tech talks, or one of the JK team members that you would like to hear from and get some information from, we're definitely building that list of who we're going to have on here. And hopefully we can keep this. I know it's a little technical, but, being able to utilize this time that we are kind of trying to stay safe at home to think about those aspects can definitely help you have a more fishy experience, if you will, in the water. If you've got your boat rigged to fit your needs, if you've got the right combination of tackle and lures and rods and reels and baits to help you catch more fish. So thank you guys for watching again. Again, congratulations for the dry bag there. And Brian, we're definitely going to get you hooked up with that. So thanks again to NRS for that awesome dry bag. And that's it. I hope you guys stay safe out there. Keep safe. Wash your hands. Stay inside if you can. I know it's hard. I want to get out on the water so bad. I am looking for places I can sneak to that are private where I can keep my distance. But our thoughts go out to everyone that's dealing with this right now. And let's just try to stay positive through this, guys. And we will leave it at that. You guys have a good rest of your week.